Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm running a couple of minutes late, and sorry to those online.
Sorry, to be clear, Tony Allen from the ACCS. Right.
Yeah. So we've got so many sessions going on, and I've just come straight from a BSI meeting, and I'm here to talk this afternoon about just how hard can it be to do age assurance. The boss says we've got some new regulations coming in, so we've got to implement age assurance. Just get it done. And someone, why the bloody hell do you start with that? I mean, where do you start? It's like, well, where are we going to put it? How are we going to do it? How hard can it really be? And one of the things that is apparent when you look at this particular area is that most people start off with oh, that's really easy. We get them to show us their ID, whatever form that is, and check that's their ID, and then off we go. When you actually try to implement that into a real live system, all of the challenges start to surface and start to come about. So what I'm going to talk about this afternoon is really around just understanding the various different options that are out there, and then how you approach doing that. I was doing this session on the basis of a new book that I've written, which is currently at the printers. It is due on Friday, which is not very helpful. But I have written a book which basically explains a full book on how you look at how the trade-offs and the governance and structure and procurement and everything you need to know about age assurance. And I was hoping to launch it here, but that isn't happening. So age assurance is easy, right? You've got three options. Age verification is always about finding somebody's date of birth. In the past, age verifications refer to all sorts of other things as well. In this case, in the international standard, it's about finding someone's date of birth, wherever that date of birth may be. It might be on a school record, it might be on a driving license, it might be in a digital identity wallet, it could be anywhere. But wherever it is, it always involves finding a date of birth. Binding that date of birth to the individual, so this is their date of birth, and then from that calculating how old they are. So that's the process of age verification. Age estimation is always about the biological features of humans that vary with age. So our face changes as we get older, our voice changes, the size of our hands changes, the length of our arm changes, our pulse changes, the way in which we move, our muscles all change as we get older. And so you can analyze those things, and then using machine learning and other techniques, you can come up with an estimation as to how old somebody is, to varying degrees of confidence and accuracy. But that's always about the biological and behavioral features of humans that vary with age. And the final one is age inference. And age inference is pretty much about any other fact about an individual from which it's reasonable to draw an inference about their age. So it doesn't involve date of birth, and it doesn't involve biometrics and things like that, but it does involve facts. So that you're a licensed commercial airline pilot. So you can reasonably infer by the fact you've got a licensed commercial airline pilot's license that you're likely to be over 21, because that's the minimum age for that particular type of license. You have a mortgage. So if you can establish that someone's got a mortgage, you can reasonably infer they're likely to be an adult. You're in grade 6 at school. So if you can establish that someone's in grade 6, it's reasonable to infer that they're likely to be, what's grade 6? About 10 or 11 years old, something like that. Yeah, there are thousands and thousands of facts that are about individuals which you can use to be able to infer something about their age. And those three different methods are the panoply of age assurance in the international standard. There is no one that fits perfectly one particular use case over another particular use case. There's no one that fits perfectly with, we'll always do it this way. There's no one size fits all. There's no silver bullet, as we heard earlier. And as a result of that, the work that we've been doing on the ISO 27566 is about developing a framework around all of those different choices. It is out. It was published in December. The great news is it's free, which is unusual for international standards, but a really important part of the importance of this document and the reason why it's suitable for regulation and for people to refer to. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you straight to a site. You have to put your email address in, but it's to download for free from ISO. You can also buy some printed copies of it that are in the bookshop. They're only £15 for a printed copy. The thing about the ISO is it's a framework, not a specification. It doesn't say you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. It sets out the core characteristics of what you would expect in a good international age assurance system. So those 5 core characteristics, I'll put all 5 of them up. Those 5 core characteristics are functionality, performance, privacy, security, and acceptability. Functionality, what does it do? So it is a system which will tell how old I am by the pinch gesture between my thumb and my finger. Okay, that's one type of age assurance. Performance, how well does it do that? Well, it gets that right about 70% of the time, or 75% of the time. How privacy preserving is it? Well, can't really tell who that is at all from just the 2 fingers touching a screen. So how are you preserving that information? How secure is it? Could I spoof it? Could I use a thumb from this hand and a finger from that hand to make me look like I'm older, for instance? And is it acceptable? Are people going to be able to use it? How many people can actually do the pinch gesture when they're navigating their Apple device or their phone? One example of a single age assurance system and how you think about the 5 core characteristics that are set out in the international standard. But they're all in tension with each other. So you can have a perfectly secure system which absolutely nails down who this person is and their exact date of birth, with evidence from the midwife and photographs and videos. You can do all that. That's absolutely fine. If you want to set a system that does that, it'll be perfectly secure. It won't be very privacy preserving because the amount of data you'd have to collect for that would be enormous. You can have something which is really good and really works for people who use an Apple iPhone, but it's not going to be acceptable to all the people that use Android phones if it doesn't work on Android. So you've got this tension and this continuing internal conflict which you have to surface when you're applying age assurance measures. So as I say, it's a framework, not a specification. So if you're looking for things that says, in order to build an age assurance system, you do this, and there you are, you've got an age assurance system. You won't find it in the international standard. What you will find are the things you have to think about when you're building a system, when you're building what you're approaching to do. And the things you have to have in mind for those trade-offs, for those internal tensions. You have to think about how you configure that. Who can configure it? So can you configure it, for instance, by I can configure it, or our team can configure it, or do you give your client a dashboard that they can go in and they can untick things they don't want to do and give your client complete configuration control over it? So you can, for instance, give your client configuration control over whether or not they decide to do liveness detection or whether they decide to accept passports from Japan. You could configure it in that way if you wanted to, but then you're giving a lot of the control and a lot of the consequences of that over to the client. So how you manage that configuration is really important. The thing that comes through more and more and more from the ISO standard is the context of use. So where are you going to use it? What's it going to be used for? In which sectors? Through which channels? Online, offline, reusable, usable in Brunei and in Nigeria and in Spain and in the UK, usable with a particular type of wallet, with a particular device, with a particular browser connection with a particular type of computer. All of these relate to the context of use. The important thing to note is that you can have a perfectly compliant and good age assurance system in one context of use, and you take it and put it in a different context of use, it suddenly becomes useless. It doesn't work in that different context. So understanding the context is really important, and the deployment of where your clients are putting it and how they are acting is also really important. From the Australia technology trial, and also from all of our discussions, and you speak to all of the relying parties, they all say the same thing. Just one size fits all just isn't going to work. It's so complex. You look at an average platform like TikTok or Meta or so, there's so many interactions across such a wide range of users using different devices, using different services, be that like dating or gaming or VR, virtual headsets or chatbots or companion AI. Trying to come up with a single system that's going to just do all of that really isn't going to work. So when you've got all those trade-offs and you've got all of that, those policy decisions that are being made, they're not technical decisions, they're policy decisions. Governance becomes absolutely critical. And the standard deals with these through something called practice statements. And the practice statements are intended to bring that clarity, trust, confidence, and surface those trade-offs. So surface what a particular age assurance provider, intermediary, or relying party has done in their decision-making. Why have they decided to use this particular approach rather than this particular approach? Not in detail, but just to give a flavor of why they've made those decisions, and about that whole ecosystem transparency, so that you can look at one age assurance system and another age assurance system if you're making that procurement choice, and you can see, using a relatively standardized process of the practice statement, how one compares with another. If you're interested in learning about that a bit more, all 48 of the practice statements that were submitted to the Australian government for the technology trial were all published and are available on ageassurance.com.au, and you can see how they all compare with each other. Was also published was the analysis of that and the tables and charts that go with it. We were involved in that project, and the Australian government were, I think, absolutely brilliant in saying that they wanted transparency and openness over the reports. The reports are out in the lobby if you want to have a look at them in the bookshop. 1,150 pages of report, and they also had all of the data that's behind it. So the tables, the analysis, the age estimation tables, they're all publicly available on the Open Science Foundation. In fact, one of the professors that was involved in the project said, literally, this is brilliant. I've got 20 years worth of PhD students lined up with subjects here that I can give them to do from this repository of data. Governance is also critical when it comes to certification. Certification is about how you demonstrate to your clients and to the public that your system, and not only have you built your system to be appropriate to the international standard, but you've had somebody have a look under the bonnet and see whether it is doing what you claim it's doing. It's where we come in, and where conformity assessment and test bodies around the world come in. We test that the age system works. So we're not building it, we're not looking at it, we're just looking at all these different ones, and they come to us and say, we can tell how old you are from your eyebrows and nothing else. Someone said that genuinely. They haven't yet come up with any evidence to support that they can do that, but they said that they think they can. We're not bothered about whether or not they think they can do it. We're bothered about whether they've got evidence, objective evidence, that they can actually do that to an appropriate level in accordance with the 5 core characteristics. I'm looking forward to the day when they come forward to us with a practice statement and an approach that proves that they can do it from your eyebrows. So certification is about trust and confidence in the marketplace and the accreditation. So this is a global network, a global system under ISO 17065, and it's about how you have trust and confidence in the products and services that you buy. You all came in here just now, and you sat down on these chairs, and you didn't think twice about sitting down on these chairs. If you actually get up and look at these chairs underneath, there's a sticker on the bottom or a label on the bottom that tells you the international standard that these chairs were tested to and who tested them. And that's been around for 50, 60 years. They're all same height. They're all very similar. They're all done with a certain strength to hold a certain weight and certain length of legs and stuff like that. And yet there are millions of different types of chairs out there, different styles, different types. Age assurance, very similar to that. What certification does is test that it works, gives you confidence it works, but it doesn't make it uniform in the sense that they're all going to look the same, they're all going to act the same, they're all going to behave in the same way. That's not what it's about. It is multi-layered, and it also supports a process of earned recognition. I'm not going to go into that in detail now, but earned recognition is basically where regulators around the world will go, if you've got some sort of certification that whatever you're doing has been reviewed and audited, that's going to give you legs up on somebody who hasn't got that when it comes to us looking at it from a regulatory perspective. So building that whole ecosystem of certification is really important, and we're getting there. Thank you very much for listening. I'm very apologetic of the fact that my book is still at the printers, but hopefully you will pre-order a copy of it, and it's also available on Amazon and all good book sellers from next week. But thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much. And I can absolutely recommend the book, and in particular the foreword, which I wrote. So, any questions, please, for Tony? Comments, complaints, praise? You are, yeah. Okay, there's one at the back.
Hi, thank you. That was a really interesting presentation. I'm Hera. I run a gender-based violence nonprofit about creating safer online spaces. Something you said struck me interesting because of these legislations that are coming up, I'm assuming there's an influx of investment that is coming to new startups, new companies that are coming up with all these claims. Are there any particular, do you think there's a role for an organization like yours or like certified age assurance providers to kind of warn or at least help governments legislate against what I'm seeing as very, like you said, like big, tall claims, and the privacy protection isn't that great?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is enormous investment going into this. This is a global challenge and a global problem. And pretty much now governments all around the world, got a little helper.
Yeah.
Pretty much governments all over the world are either have got regulations in place or are starting to get regulations in place. And everyone everywhere is looking at how you actually do this. It's no accident that we've got 8 of the 10 biggest online platforms and social media platforms here today. Some of them in great numbers. I mean, some of the platforms have got 8, 10, 12 people here. They're really struggling to work out how to do it and how to do it right. And they're very engaged in it. And some of them have obviously had their wings clipped by some recent cases in courts and stuff as well. So that brings investment to the space. In terms of our role as a certification body, that it's a symbiotic relationship with government and with regulators. Our role is very much focused on the compliant end of that spectrum. So businesses that want to get it right, have got systems in place, want to develop, want to demonstrate that they are compliant. It's always voluntary. Certification ought not be mandatory. It's something that you choose to do. Regulators, on the other hand, their focus of attention is on the other end. We're not compliant. We don't want to comply. We don't care about your laws. 4chan, for instance, who sent a hamster emoji back to Ofcom when they find them, is not really. They're never going to be certified. They're never going to come to us for certification if that's the sort of behaviours they've got. They're not really interested in whether they comply or not. And within the next 10 years, your young lad there is going to experience much more smooth age assurance processes and systems as they invest more and more in them. And hopefully he'll grow up in a much safer online world.
And be
He's got
grateful
the
to
eyebrows for it.
Uncle Tony for facilitating that. But I think part of the question was, if I've understood it, do you see yourself having a role, or ACCS having any role in advising? For example, I know philanthropic institutions might be looking to invest in helping develop new solutions in this space with a different orientation from straightforward commercial companies. Who's around to hold their hand and point them in the right direction? Maybe not you, but maybe.
Oh yeah, we do. We have a line that we can't cross in that if eventually they become a client for certification, we can't mark our own work.
Yeah.
So if we've helped them to develop the system, then that would mean that we can't then
Got it.
certify it. But that doesn't stop us giving them general advice. We just can't go away and write it for them or do anything like that. So as long as we don't cross that line, we're very happy to assist, very happy to help. We do a series of activities. We do a lot of education. We do summits. We do briefings. There's a lot of material on our website. We also do a lot of support to organizations like, for instance, Ian and the Age Verification Providers Association, who provide a lot of data and information on their website about rules and regulations around the world, supporting that and helping them to understand all of that. So our only bit is that we can't write it for you.
I've acted as an advisor to groups of ethical investors, mainly in the United States and mainly churches, and religious institutions. And it's certainly true that they are keen to help in these sorts of spaces, but it's not always obvious who to point them to for help and advice.
Happy to speak soon.
Yeah.